Folks, today I'm going to be talking about locus of control and how that impacts a person's performance and whether they win or lose in different areas of their life, as well as their well-being, because a person who feels like they have a high internal locus of control, from my perspective and our observations and the research that we've done, typically have a better quality of life and better well-being as well. Okay, so there's in our research, there's a correlation there, not necessarily causation, but a correlation. So let's get into locus of control. Locus of control basically refers to the degree which an individual believes that they can control the outcomes or events in their life. And those individuals who have an internal locus of control believe that their own thoughts, actions, and responses to the environment actually create their destiny or their life outcomes. So they believe that they have control over their life outcomes. That's internal locus of control. On the flip side, there's individuals who believe that their lives are influenced by external factors. So hence why we say external. So they believe that their life is dictated by luck or fate or other people's actions. Perhaps life has just dealt them a bad hand, whatever that might be, but they don't fully believe that they're in control over their life or they have the ability to shape their future. So every person falls within an area of the spectrum. So on one side, there's internal locus of control. On the other side, it's external locus of control. And we can fall anywhere in between the two. And it also depends on life circumstances and situations. For example, someone in their 20s may feel like they're completely in control of their life because maybe life is going great for them. They have no issues, no problems. And then 20 years later, they may have all these problems, perhaps as a marital breakdown, whatever it might be, people getting sick or health issues. And they may shift more towards an external locus of control. So now they don't feel like they have control over their life and they can't impact or influence the future of their life. So the key thing here is that there's a spectrum. People can fall anywhere on that spectrum, and people can shift in terms of where they fall on the spectrum. From my observations, the people who are fulfilled in life, who are successful, who are winners, who are able to have proper well-being, are the people that lean more towards and stay more towards the internal locus of control on the spectrum. So regardless of what life throws at them, they still feel like and believe that they have control over their life outcomes. It's very, very important because it's really tied to this concept of autonomy. Autonomy is essentially a belief that people have choices or have the ability to choose what they want to do, for example. And that's very important because that's directly tied to motivation and drive. And what we are seeing right now is that there is a collective low level of motivation and drive. I'm not saying everybody, but I'm just saying as a society, we've observed this. And I've been talking to CEOs and executives across the country, and they have confirmed that many people within their organizations who were driven before are no longer driven in terms of the same level of motivation and drive. And they feel as though their organizations have a collective low level of motivation and drive as well. Again, this doesn't apply to everybody, right? But I'm just saying a generalization, a collective low level of motivation. One of the key things that impacts motivation and drive, which is very important, right? Motivation is so critical. It's one of the key aspects of winning. It's one of the most important aspects of performance. It's one of the most important aspects of just having a successful relationship, being happy, having proper health. If a person doesn't have a high level of motivation, they're not going to get themselves off the couch to actually do what they need to do. And that's the bottom line. And the same applies to the work environment. And I'm talking to many CEOs who are saying, I just don't know how to motivate my people. There's a number of factors here, again, that come into play when it comes to motivation, but I'm going to talk about autonomy and internal locus of control. So internal locus of control, I've already talked about, right? It's people believing that they have the ability to shape their future. And then there's autonomy, believing that they have choice to do something. It's their level of freedom, for example, to do and choose what they want. But within their autonomy, and there's something very important. For a person to feel like they have autonomy, they have to have choices. So that's the first thing that's very, very important. If you want to help someone increase their level of drive and motivation, they need to feel like they have autonomy, which means that they need to have some choices. So rather than saying you need to do this one particular thing, they need to have choices. So whether it's A, B, or C, or D, they need to be able to say, hey, I have the freedom to choose something here. So if you want to help someone feel more autonomous, give them choices. But there's something else that's also just as important. They have to feel like they are the ones that are coming up with the choices for them to feel truly like they have autonomy. Because it's different for someone to say, so let's just play this out here. I come to you and say, hey, look, you get to choose between a pepperoni pizza or a Greek pizza, right? You feel like you have a choice. Oh, great. Pradeep has given me a choice. Maybe I've come up and said pepperoni, Greek, and vegetarian. Now I've given you more choices, even better. But perhaps you don't like any of those choices. And you feel like you have some autonomy because I've given you choice, but you don't feel like you have full autonomy. Now, the difference here is, what if I just said to you, hey, you have the choice of picking any 3 pizzas you want, your favorite ones, whatever they are. Go ahead. Pick any 3, but you have to, at the end of the day, pick your top favorite one. So now, not only have you been able to have 3 choices, you get to select the one that you want. And that is the difference. That is true autonomy. So if we take a look at this for ourselves, we need to feel like we've come up with the opportunities and choices that have been given to us, not someone else. Okay, that's very, very important. This also applies to the people in our lives, whether it's our spouses or a spouse, let's just say, or our kids, or our employees, or our team members, whoever it is. They need to feel like they've also, not only A, do they have choice, but B, that they've been able to come up with a choice, that they've had a say in the choices, right? That is very, very important here. And so I'm just going to summarize this because this all comes back to motivation and drive. If you want to help people have more motivation and drive, help them shift more towards an internal locus of control, which is a completely different topic, but it's important to know whether they fall into the internal or external category. Second of all is they need to have choices. They need to have choices. Okay, very, very important. But also the element, which is kind of like the icing on the cake, is they need to feel and have the perception that the choices that are presented to them, they're the ones that came up with the choices. Because that's what leads to true autonomy. If you do those things for yourself, you're going to be able to have more motivation and drive. But also, if you help other people in your life do that as well, they're going to have more motivation and drive. It's a very, very important aspect of performance, winning, and also being fulfilled in life.